The Iowa Hawkeye women with yet another win in the month of December, a 98-69 defeat over the Ramblers of Loyola-Chicago inside Carver Hawkeye Arena. I'm Cory Brada, your host here from the Hawkeye of the Storm, and after a long extended Wednesday, December 20th, I'm back for more. What do they call it? Glutton for punishment? Oh, I enjoyed these shows. Unfortunately, we don't have our good friend Gary Close with us tonight for women's basketball postgame, so you'll have to deal with just me this evening, and of course our callers hopefully can be a part of this show as well. I had a great time yesterday talking with Jess Settles, and thank you again to Jess and to Gary. Gary, of course, has been a part of this show for 3 years now. This is year 3. It's unbelievable. It's flown by. And then the signing day show yesterday as well. If you missed any of that programming, certainly go back and check it out. All of it's included via podcast. We had the post-game show last night uploaded to Spotify and Apple and Google and all those podcast platforms. We'll have the women's post-game uploaded later tonight, and then we'll have the recruiting show up tomorrow via audio. So we're going to talk about this win over the next hour or so. As you see on the bottom ticker, Iowa Smokehouse, proud sponsor of our show and also of our call line. They're the ones that make our phone calls possible with you, the fan. And if you have a question or a comment regarding the game this evening, be sure to click the link in our description. I'll also throw the link up in our live chat if you're interested in hopping on, either on camera or off camera, to throw in a comment or a question. You can also call our phone line. The phone line is 515-635-1601. 515-635-1601. This was a BTN Plus game, so I'm curious as to how many. We've got about 80 people that have found their way into the show so far. I'm curious with the people that are here at this point, and maybe you can comment up in the chat. I'm curious as to how many people actually were able to watch this, how many people actually ponied up the $9.99 it took to watch the few BTN Plus games that Iowa fans will get in the month of December. I think there's one more for the men on the 29th. The women don't play again until the 30th, and that game is on BTN. It will be a conference game, and I do believe there will be a BTN Plus game for the women in January. So will people want to stick with another month of that just for one game? I don't know. But for the most part, the BTN Plus games are behind us, with the exception being a men's game on the 29th. But the Hawkeye women getting off to a slow start this evening. And I don't know what else you'll point to other than lack of defense, lack of 3-point defense. I watched and listened to Fran McCaffrey yesterday following the game against UMBC, really rip into his team defensively at the end of that game. And I know some kind of mixed reviews as far as reaction to those comments to Jess Sells on BTN after the game. But, boy, very reminiscent of the men tonight, first half. The Iowa women just not defending well at all. And I don't want to hear for a second about why it was Gabby Marshall's absence being the reason why they didn't defend well. There's too many players on this team that are capable of playing better defense than they play oftentimes. And they overcome it so much given the fact that they have a generational type of offensive player in Caitlin Clark. And that's okay. I mean, they got away with it through to the national championship game a year ago. And so, but there are inconsistencies and inadequacies there, and several people just not playing their best basketball. That Molly Davis really struggled in the first half. Gabby Marshall, if you missed it, she's out with a reported illness. Don't know a timeline. Did not look like she was there with the team, although maybe she was, and they didn't zoom in on her on BTN Plus. I don't think they have maybe the most aware cameraman in the world. I don't know that, but she may or may not have been there. She was not on the court, did not start. Sydney Falter started in her place. You also had Molly Davis starting. They have done so many different things. Lisa Bluter, Jan Jensen and company, they've done so many different things with this lineup. It's hard for me to remember from game to game what the starting unit is because at times this year they've started Sharon Goodman. At times this year they've started Molly. And now with Gabby Marshall out, you throw in Sydney Falter. Frankly, I think Falter might deserve to be a starter as is. Now, maybe, Gabby Marshall's been a starter for so long. Do you really bench her at this point? Certainly tonight was a different story given maybe a health issue that she's dealing with. But anyways, we can get to all this. We'll run through the stats. And yes, another triple-double for Caitlin Clark. And it was right when the triple-double was had. Lisa Bluter took her out of the game. Lisa's been very clear on how she feels about triple-doubles, really values triple-doubles, has said that publicly many times. And take that for what you will. The Hawkeyes winning by 29 points this evening and seemingly coming away healthy. There were a couple moments in this game where Caitlin got a little bit dinged up. Players hit the floor hard. I thought Loyola played really hard in that first half. Give them credit. And like I said, made Iowa really work defensively. And again, didn't work hard enough. A really close game at halftime. And I think Iowa was down by maybe as many as 6 points in the second quarter. I'll have to look back at the final stat sheet. Still waiting the final stats from the University of Iowa. Again, if you want to call into our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line, it's 515-635-1601, 515-635-1601. A reminder to check out RTI Threads, folks. I'm back with my CD3 Laces Up hoodie. It's great stuff. Cooper DeJean's apparel line, so many different products. They've also got golf balls. He's got a golf ball line. Aaron Graves, Carson Shire, Aiden Hall, Zach Lutmer. Yes, Aaron Graves is now called the Grave Digger. That's been his shtick for a while. All those guys have apparel lines, and as long as you're supporting the NIL athlete, that's what's important. But when you get to support the initiatives of the players, along with this show and a local Iowa company, I know they're in North Sioux City, but I mean RTI Threads are so invested in Iowa athletics and Iowa high school sports. Certainly would encourage you to support them. RTIthreads.com, and then Cooper DeJean's line is specifically at CD3LacesUp.com. Also, want to thank, as I said, Iowa Smokehouse. They are supporting the show once again through sponsorship. Use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your total order at iowasmokehouse.com. Tasting is believing with their beef sticks, their beef jerky. You talk about their steak bites. Everything is awesome. It's fresh. It's good tasting. It's flavorful. And it goes great with a bourbon or a beer on game day. Use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your total order and get free shipping with any $50 order. Tasting is believing at iowasmokehouse.com. Also, Brad Van Meter and his team down at State Farm are excited about the Hawkeye women. They just have one loss on the year. Remember, they avenged that loss to the Wildcats. Brad and his team ready to launch another year of great insurance coverage for their many customers heading into 2024. Give them a call and see how he can help you and your family save money on whatever type of insurance you are currently paying for or need in the future. 515-256-6480, and auto rates have never been as low as they are right now per Brad. You can also visit them online at bradvanmeter.com. Brad Van Meter at State Farm down in Des Moines. All right, before we move on, let's see. I want to acknowledge a chat here. A couple of comments that I wanted to get to right away. So, Charles, just to address Gabby Marshall, yes, the report came. I did see Kyle Huseman tweet this out of On3, HawkeyeReport.com. She's dealing with an illness, was questionable coming in. Again, was she on the sidelines? I don't know, but she did not play in the game. And, it's not like she's been giving them a lot of offensive production. She does dig in defensively. She's a leader on this team, obviously brings a lot of experience to the table. But Sydney Falter, I thought, came in and played really well and meshed into a starting role just fine this evening. And so we'll see how Gabby's recovery is. I don't know to what extent, if it's COVID or if it's the flu or whatever it is. But the good news is they have about 9 days off. They don't play again until the 30th when they get back into Big Ten play. So should be able to get Gabby Marshall back healthy. All right, let's go to Ben, who's on our Iowa Smokehouse call line. Ben, welcome.
Hi. I feel like Stolke at times was just like she was missing shots that she should have made. I mean, there were just a few shots that I saw where she was wide open and she missed.
They're not quite as good around the rim as they have in past years. I mean, a big part of that is what we've had with Gustafson and Sonano for so long. But finishing around the rim, and Sharon Goodman's had some issues with that over the course of the season as well. But, let's not forget Hannah hasn't been healthy for a real long time. She's still got that knee brace going. Hopefully, by the time we hit Big Ten play here in a couple of weeks, maybe she can shed that. Maybe it's a season-long thing she's going to have. But, those are things that you'll get back in the gym and work on and hopefully clean up.
Yeah, with free throws too. I mean, I feel like she really needs to work on those. I mean, how many? I forget how many she missed today, but I mean,
let's see the total for the night. Hannah was 6 of 15 from the field, 8 boards, had 20 points. She was 2 of 6 from the free throw line. No, you're absolutely right. She's got to shoot free throws better because with her athleticism and her ability to get positioned inside, she's going to draw plenty of fouls. She drew, I don't have fouls drawn. I'll get that stat. But she's going to get to the line a fair amount, especially when she's feeling better with that knee. All right. I guess that was all from Ben. Thank you, Ben, for the call. And, brings up some good points. And I'm not saying Hannah doesn't feel good right now. She did put up 20 and 8 this evening. But I just know how knee injuries. I don't know exactly what knee injury she is currently dealing with and what put her out. Maybe that's been published and I just haven't seen that. But I can just tell you for a fact that knee injuries are really difficult as far as even when you come back off knee injuries. I know there's so many examples of that just with Iowa. It's hard to feel comfortable for a while, even if your knee is fully healed or the injury is healed or you had surgery and it's fully recovered. Just to feel comfortable back on the knee. And especially when you're banging down low and using those long legs to get position. And of course, Iowa wants to play fast, so you're going to have to run a lot. I just would think that that's going to linger a little bit. And as she gets more and more comfortable with it, I would think she's going to get more and more comfortable across the board offensively. 17 rebounds. How about 17 rebounds? This is interesting that Caitlin Clark had 17. As I'm watching the game, and I did see the stat there on BTN Plus at the very end, I had to think back, like, when did all these rebounds happen? And oftentimes, Loyola retreated. Caitlin Clark, is the one that's going to bring the ball up 9 times out of 10. So she creates more rebounding opportunities because of the way they play, of course. All right, that's not a knock on her at all. That's just kind of how Iowa plays. They want to get out in transition, so their team's going to send people back, not crash their guards as much, and so Caitlin can kind of take advantage of that. But 17 is really an impressive number. No question about it. And how about this? This is the most impressive part of her night. Just 4 turnovers. 10 assists, 4 turnovers. And I didn't think she played great early, but she only took 21 shots in the game, 4 of 12 from 3. Maybe that's kind of why I had that feeling. 4 of 12 isn't great. Good for 33%, but overall, really good, efficient night for Caitlin. And again, balance across the board. Kate Martin had a nice night with 19 points on 6 of 11 shooting, made 3 threes, was perfect 4 of 4 from the free throw line. Hannah Stolke had, again, the 20 points on 9 of 15 shooting. Sydney Falter added 10. How about Sydney coming off the well, she's not coming off the bench, but inserted in the starting lineup tonight. 10 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal to go along with 2 blocks and 2 turnovers for Sydney Falter. She is a stat sheet stuffer. Molly Davis struggled tonight. I thought she made amends, though, a couple plays late. Heads-up passes. She had a couple kind of confounding throws early in the game, I think kind of frustrating to Caitlin Clark. And was not her best performance, but she held down the fort, ended up with 3 turnovers, and I thought got better, more comfortable as the game went on. And the nice thing about Lisa Bluter is she's kind of like Fran in that she's not going to abandon you if you're struggling. They want their players to feel like they have a green light, and I think all these players have a green light, whether it's Gabby Marshall, Molly Davis, Sydney Falter, whether they're knocking down threes actively or not. Not much bench activity, especially with the Falter being inserted into the lineup. Not a real deep bench. We didn't see really any minutes for Addison O'Grady. 4 minutes late. Sharon Goodman played just 8. Iowa went small, and it paid off. Actually, 24 minutes for Kylie Feuerbach led all bench play. 24 minutes, 4 points for Kylie. Did have 3 steals, though, and drew a couple of charges. I thought she was by far their most impressive player off the bench. Taylor McCabe also played 13 minutes, did not score. And you had some late minutes from A.J. Ediger, Jada Gyamfi, as I mentioned, Addison O'Grady, and Kenise Johnson. I guess she's dropped the ETN because she's just listed as Kenise Johnson. So that's where we're at. A quick stat sheet rundown there for the Iowa women. Hawk, any else think that Loyola's coach looked like Andy Dick and Ellen DeGeneres had a kid? I didn't have that thought, but that's interesting. I didn't. I thought she had an interesting choice of attire, but again, I didn't think about that comparison. Dustin says, how can any game Caitlin and the Hawks play not be on real TV? The draw pays for itself. Disrespectful to put them on BTN Plus. Yeah, I don't know the logistics that go into some of that. I will say I thought it was odd that there was a 5 p.m. start when it's a BTN Plus game. Like, if you're going to have a streaming option only, put the game at 7 p.m. Why have a 5 p.m. game? I just thought that was odd. I will say, give the fans credit, man. They show up for these Iowa women. And I hear all the time, we talk about the men, why people don't show up as much for the men. There's like 3,000 people for that game last night, primetime game against UMBC. People are like, well, it's middle of the week. The students are gone. It's a bad tip time. The women played Loyola-Chicago at 5 p.m. Central Time during the middle of break, and it was packed. And that is the Caitlin Clark effect. Don't get me wrong, but it's such a sad excuse for the men. It's an excuse made for a bigger problem. And credit to the women. They've attracted not just Clark, but this whole team, this program has got the attention of the state and the country. Thank you, Barbara. I do appreciate the compliment in the chat there. I appreciate you being here as well. Gabe says he listened to the game on the radio, and as well as Casey listened to the game on the radio. Dustin listened to the game on the radio. Bob says BTN Plus announcers were not up to regular TV standards. Well, they're not going to be. David says he watched the game listened to the game on the radio. And Arrow Bertson, if I have the name right there. And I'm sorry, I was zoned out there to our caller that just tried to call in. Give me a call back. I was looking at the wrong screen here. We've got our call line up and active, so go ahead and give me a call, 515-635-1601. But it is cheaper compared to Flow Hoops. I think Flow Hoops was, what, $20, $30 a month? Maybe it wasn't that much. I think it was. Wasn't it $30? BTN Plus is $9.99 a month, and you get all the Iowa BTN Plus games, including the men's games. So anyways, let's go to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Hi, this is Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Chris.
I'm calling from Lusk, Wyoming, and I'm a little upset about not being able to watch the women play, because of BTN Plus. So I had to listen to it on the Hawkeye Radio Network. And one of the things they don't do is keep you apprised of the score. They get off on other topics, so that's kind of frustrating.
Sure.
But anyway, yeah. But I just, you commented, because I've been noticing too, the difference between the energy level of the women's games versus the men's games. And I watched the men's game last night, and I thought, what is wrong with this crowd? You know what I mean? It was so lackluster, and and the cameras didn't really show you the crowd very much, so you really couldn't see that there was nobody there. So I guess that explains it.
Yeah,
but
I was going to say not to interrupt you, Chris, but you talk about the lackluster crowd. You're absolutely right. The reason the crowd is lackluster is because there isn't a crowd.
Okay, there you go. Well, thanks for explaining that.
We had Jess Settles on last night. He estimated there was probably 2,500 people there.
Oh, that's awful. Now, see, I'm an Iowa grad, 1981, and I had season tickets the time we went to the Final Four. So that means we were watching in the field house. And I don't know if you ever got to attend a basketball game in the field house.
Heard a lot of great things about the field house. I was too young, but I've heard a lot of great things about the field house.
What a fabulous place. I mean, you got done watching a game there and it felt like you played it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It was, you really got involved in it. So, but now I've lost my train of thought because I'm old. But I think now if I had to choose between watching the men's and the women's, I would watch the women. They're just, I don't know, more exciting to watch. I don't know, maybe that's just how I feel about it. But I also think that the difference, one of the differences, like would Caitlin Clark, if she could have gone pro last year, would she have done it? You know, because they don't allow the women cannot go pro. They have to play the 4 years. Isn't that correct?
I believe you're correct, but I don't think she would have went pro. She's making way too much money with NIL, and I know she could make a lot of that as a pro, but I think there's a good chance she comes back next year. She's not said that publicly, but she's making so much money through Powerade, and she's got Powerade deals. She's got Buick. She's got a Buick deal. She's got State Farm. She's got Hy-Vee. I just think she's got to be making, I don't know. I mean, at least six figures. I maybe more than that. I just, you don't, as you probably know, Chris, there aren't a lot of opportunities for, high pay in the WNBA, even for an first overall pick. I don't know what a number one pick typically makes in their first year, but I think what she's getting NIL wise probably trumps that.
Yeah, I can see that, and I'm all for it. You know what I mean? Because look at how many different institutions are making money off of her. So why shouldn't she make some money as well?
Absolutely. She's an example of the great part of NIL. I know there's a lot of downsides, and people don't like how it's kind of ruined. Some people think it's ruining college basketball, especially for women's hoops, and for people like Caitlin Clark, who didn't come to Iowa for NIL. She'd make NIL wherever she's at. She stayed home. It's a great, like, she came in at the perfect time, because wouldn't it be a shame if it was 5 years ago and she could not profit? Wouldn't that be a shame, given how game changing she is?
Exactly. I mean, she has really changed the face of women's basketball. I mean, people, look at the people that are tuning in wherever she goes, and tuning in to watch. And it's exciting, and it's unexpected. People don't expect the women to really perform like that if they're not watching. You know what I mean? So she's brought a lot of excitement to the game, as have other stars, on different teams. But of course, she's, I believe, a cut above the rest, and we won't see another player like her for generations. I truly doubt.
I think it's fair to say, Chris, we'll probably never see another her at Iowa.
Yeah. And so it's just phenomenal. And so that's another reason why I'm a little miffed that I couldn't watch the game tonight. Well, but they always rebroadcast the game on YouTube, so I can watch it later and see it. But I kind of wonder about the men's basketball. If if Joe Wieskamp wouldn't have gone pro, if Chris Murray wouldn't have gone pro, wouldn't we have a different legacy for the Iowa men's team? And is it really better for them to leave the program and go pro, do you think that they would have grown more with the Iowa program and been playing at a higher level now than they are?
You're talking about the
presently?
program or the players that left?
I'm talking about the players that left, because I feel like that's one of the reasons that it seems kind of lackluster to me. You know, you look forward to people coming back, and then they don't come back.
Sure.
And so it's like a whole new team every year. I think that would have to be awfully frustrating for the coaches, you know.
Well, yeah, and the transfer portal has not helped. I think maybe even the bigger
Yeah.
storylines. You can't expect great players like Luka Garza to stick around forever, although he's struggled to stick in the NBA just because of some of his struggles defensively and with athleticism. But what you said is fair. Joe Wieskamp has struggled to stick. Peter Jock has struggled to stick. But I mean, it's not like a bunch of Iowa guys are going one and done. I mean, they're sticking around for at least 3 years. And, you know, I think maybe the bigger question marks would be like, how would this team be different if CJ Frederick had stuck around, or, you know, if they had been able to land somebody that Fran had targeted in the transfer portal during this offseason. The reality is, leaving early for the NBA, if you're a successful program and you're competing in the NCAA tournament year after year, you're going to have players leave early, and you're also going to have players that aren't happy and enter the transfer portal because they have the freedom to do so. Plus, with NIL and the option to earn money certain places, there are going to be other places where they can earn more money or have better opportunities. So, you know, I get what you're saying. I would say, though, that I still put the onus on Fran to handle that. And I'm okay. I mean, it's understandable a program like Iowa is going to have a rebuilding year here or there, and that might be the case this year. But you know, he's got to do work. You know, you're losing guys because of the portal and because of NIL. You got to figure out a way to take advantage of NIL and get guys because of the portal, because that's just how the sport has changed. Not everybody can be like Lisa Bluter and retain all their players every year, it seems like.
Yeah, she's phenomenal, you know. So,
she is. She's great at retaining talent, that's for sure, because Caitlin Clark could have went anywhere. And I know she's a homebody, but she could have went anywhere in the country. Literally anywhere, and she's stuck around.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a point of pride for me being a native Iowan, even though I'm out here suffering in the Wild West, to be able to tell people about Caitlin Clark. And you guys, you know, have to watch this girl play, or this woman, I should say, play. So anyway, so I guess other than that, I have a comment about Gabby Marshall, because I saw somebody on one of your I watch your show all the time. But I saw somebody on one of your last shows kind of commenting in the comments, bitching about Gabby Marshall. And I just think, you know, give her a break. But I think that she's been playing because of her defense out there. She's so phenomenal on defense. And when I played basketball, I played defense, and there's nothing better than defense. And, you know, so I think she brings a lot to the game, and it was nice that Sydney I cannot say her last name.
Afalter.
But that, Afalter. Thank you. That she could step up and fill those shoes. So I thought she did a great job tonight. But I'm looking forward also to having Gabby come back and having her hit her stride and start hitting those threes, because I know she can do it. So anyway.
Yep. They're going to need her. They're going to need her defense. I mean, you know, I think this team as a whole is well below average defensively. With her, she's their best perimeter defender, no question about it. And they're going to need her threes. At some point, she's got to start hitting threes, because I don't think they can win in March without her threes. I don't think they can.
Right, and she's got a beautiful shot. So you know, I hope she's not listening, but I think, you know, it's a head thing. You know, it's a, you know,
sure,
when you're not making them, it's a head thing. So I just think, you know, people shut up if you're dissing her. Let her work through it, and love her, because she's a fantastic player, and she's going to come on and make us all proud too. So anyway, that's all I got for you today, Cory. I really love your show, and appreciate all you do.
Well, thank you, Chris. Appreciate the phone call.
Okay, go Hawks.
All right, go Hawks. Have a good night. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate the call. For some reason, when Chris first called in, I thought it was a prank call. I don't know why I did, but I don't have a screener here, so I have to screen my own calls. So when she first called in, for some reason, she sounded like someone else who I thought was pranking the phone line. So anyways, I appreciate that. It was a great call. So always good to hear from people, not just in the state of Iowa, but across the country who are Hawk fans. And even in the great state of Wyoming. We've had a lot of people calling in from Idaho and Wyoming and Montana. I think it's great. Iowa Farmer Blake, the way the women's team works the ball around, scores in transition, always keeps things exciting. The men's team is bland with no go-to score and only highlights are France technicals and ejections. Now, I will say this, Blake. I'm not going to argue with a lot of that. But let's acknowledge that Fran has had some of the best players in college basketball over the past few years. Now, I know they have not had a ton of success in March, but Luka Garza was National Player of the Year 2 years in a row, and then Keegan Murray was phenomenal the year after. Chris Murray was phenomenal last year, certainly not to the level of Keegan and Luka. And then Joe Wieskamp before that, Peter Jock before that. They have had really good players. And then you had Jordan Bohannon and the sharpshooters around those guys throughout. So this is a down year thus far for the men. There's no question about it. But I am going to pump the brakes a little bit on the narrative that Fran just doesn't have star power. He's had a lot of star power in recent years. But you're right about this year, Blake. They do not have a go-to scorer at this point, and it's hurting them dearly. R.O. Bertson, or R.O. A. Robert S.N., A. Roberts N., whatever it is. I don't think money is the driving factor. Going to WNBA after a year probably means you spend most of your WNBA career in the Midwest. She's wealthy either way. Okay, after this year. She's talking about this year. Yeah, we'll see what happens because you're right. She's going to be she is such an icon in the sport now, whether you're talking about the college sport or the pro sport. She's going to be just fine financially. I think that's fair to say. And my guess is that her family has probably never been hurting for money, although I don't know that. I just know she was a Dowling grad. So, but again, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. She is going to be successful with whatever she does. She's got a great head in her shoulders, right? She's phenomenal on the court. She's really good off the court. People love her personality. I get it. So, yeah. And Brian, I don't understand how the women can get 56,000 people to show up to an exhibition, but can't get televised. Well, this is we've never seen an era of women's basketball. Even the UConn women have never been, maybe they've been selling out and I'm just totally oblivious to it. But as dominant as Gino RAM and the UConn women were for so long, it still has not compared to what these women have done over the last few years, specifically because of Clark. But this Lisa Bluter-led staff and roster year after year now for several years has been phenomenal as it relates to fan attendance and fan attention. And give credit to the Iowa fans, too. You got to give credit to them because they've led the way with this. We're going to get to our RTI Threads player of the game in just a second. You can probably guess who that was, although I kind of agonized over this a little bit because there were actually several standouts this evening that I thought, Hannah Stuelke was really good. I know she missed some gimmies, as our first caller, Ben, brought up, but got to get the free throw line and make your free throws if you're going to get there, and she's going to because of her game. But, boy, how do you overlook Caitlin Clark? And I'm writing in the stats here just so we have the correct information up here because, boy, what a day for Caitlin Clark. 35 points, 10 assists, 17. Yes, 10 assists. I said that right. 17 rebounds. Yeah, you don't expect 17 rebounds out of Caitlin Clark, but 17 rebounds along with 10 assists for Caitlin on the night. She is our RTI Threads player of the game. And say what you want. I've been critical of Lisa because I'm an open book. I'm going to be honest, and I try to be fair with my criticism. I don't agree with keeping her in the game just to achieve a triple-double, but stats are obviously important to Lisa Bluter, and triple-doubles she has expressed are very important to Caitlin Clark and to Lisa. I do think it's ironic, though, for the people out there that try to argue about, in Kirk Ferentz's behalf, that a win is a win, stats don't matter. Kirk has said that so many times. I guarantee you some of the same people that defend Kirk to the grave on that only thing that matters is team success and winning, would also defend Lisa in saying, well, yeah, they're going to win by 30, but a triple-double is special, and stats for Caitlin are special. I just think you can't have it both ways. That's my opinion. I think it's a little bit hypocritical, but it is what it is. She was phenomenal. 35 points, 10 rebounds, 17 rebounds. Man, I got to get comfortable listing rebounds second for Caitlin Clark to go along with 10 assists. Yes, a triple-double for Caitlin, and she achieved that triple-double on a sweet little look under the rim to Jada Gyamfi, who had come in and scored her first points of the game. J.M. Ramsey, if Caitlin wants to stay close to her family, her boyfriend, and the Hawkeye family, she'll go to Indiana next year. Well, I don't really know. So what does that mean? You're saying she's going to get drafted where she's going to get drafted, right? I don't know that she's going to be able to determine where she goes. If she goes to the WNBA, if she wants to stick close to her family, then why wouldn't she stay here? Why wouldn't she stay at Iowa? And of course, if Connor's still, I'm assuming Connor's still working with the Pacers. I haven't heard, but I mean, his dad and family is still in Iowa City for now. So I don't know. I think ideally, I mean, we're not going to start dissecting a college relationship, but yeah, last I knew, Connor and Caitlin were still a thing. So, you know, that's probably going to have an impact on decision-making at some point in the future. Bob says, how about the behind the back pass from Caitlin? Yeah. Really impressive. And you don't see many basketball players in general pulling that off at this level. Certainly not in the women's game. J.M. Ramsey, thank you for the information. I didn't realize Indiana had the first pick. So, okay. I could see that. I could see that line of reasoning. If they're guaranteed to have the first pick, then, maybe there's a pull. I still think she comes back, though. If you had to ask me right now, I think she comes back. Just a hunch. But I bet she comes back. Again, final score tonight, 98-69 behind a triple-double from Caitlin Clark. And you look at the stat sheet, again, Iowa struggled defending the three, especially early. Gave up 13 threes in the night for Loyola. They did take 35, and they like to get up and run as well. 41% from the field for the Ramblers, 50% from the field for Iowa, and yet only made 7 threes. A lot of their work was inside. A lot of dimes from Caitlin Clark, and Iowa just destroyed Loyola on the glass, 51-27 in favor of the Hawks. 23 turnovers for Loyola, 17 for Iowa. And yes, you don't want a bunch of turnovers, but the way Iowa plays, that's one thing I totally disagree with the BTN Plus commentators that kept talking about how Iowa needed to slow it down. To me, that's the last thing that you want to tell an Iowa team to do is slow it down. They are at their best when they're playing fast. And yes, they're going to create some turnovers. Sometimes they're not going to get back in transition. But you look at games like the home game against Kansas State earlier this year where they lost. When teams slow them down, or Virginia Tech, it was a close game. Teams slow them down, get them into a half-court game. That's when you start struggling because you don't have a post like Monica Sonano to dip off to. Now, Loyola did not have that grueling big like Virginia Tech had, like Kansas State has. So Iowa was able to pull away. I think they would have won this game either way. And the three-point shot kept Loyola in the game in that first half. But to me, you got to go. Whether you're turning the ball over 15 or 20 times, run. That's where Iowa's at its best. That's where Caitlin Clark is at her best. Okay, couple things before we leave here. One final call to the phone line, 515-635-1601. I don't see anybody on it now. 515-635-1601. I'll throw it up on the bottom of your screen. Another thank you to RTI Threads. I mentioned them at the outset. We'll mention them again before logging off. Check out the Cooper DeJean apparel. Great CD3 Laces Up apparel over at cd3lacesup.com. Support a small town kid and his future endeavors by means of his collective, or his NIL initiative, I should say, with RTI Threads. His website, cd3lacesup.com, and you can browse all these athletes' merch sites and their apparel lines at rtithreads.com. Check out the official merch of Aaron Graves, Carson Shire, Aiden Hall, Zach Lutmer. Man, there's not one guy in that group that I don't see emerging as a big-time player here in the next year or two. Aaron Graves is going to be the guy up front next year along that defensive line. Carson Shire, if Jay Higgins, Nick Jackson leave, Carson Shire is got a great shot at starting next year. That's not exaggerating whatsoever. And then Aiden Hall, Zach Lutmer, a couple of really good young guys from Western Iowa mainly, and really good athleticism and speed from Zach. Great work ethic from Aiden. Comes from a great football community. Anyways, support these guys, folks. They're the future of Hawkeye football. RTIthreads.com. Also, again, want to thank Brad Van Meter and his team down at State Farm. Give them a call, 515-256-6480. That's 515-256-6480 for a free quote on auto insurance, renter's insurance, business insurance, and the like. Support he and his small team taking care of so many Iowans across the state, border to border. Give him a call for a free quote on your insurance of choice, 515-256-6480, or online at bradvanmeter.com. Plus Iowa Smokehouse and their awesome snacking products for game day or any day. You'll never need to look anywhere else with Iowa Smokehouse at your doorstep. And yes, you spend $50 at their website, you'll get free shipping. What a deal from an Iowa company, Iowa Smokehouse. Whether it's their thick and tender cuts of beef jerky, their flavorful meat sticks, or even their steak bites, ketchups, barbecue sauces, and salsas, you'll never look anywhere else. You'll never need to go anywhere else. Tasting is believing. Go to iowasmokehouse.com and use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your order. All right, let's see if there's anything else in the chat that I need to address. I don't see anybody on the phone line. So a couple of reminders before we log off. Be sure to support the show through sponsorship. If you're interested in learning more about sponsorship opportunities, email me from the eyeofthestorm@outlook.com. Also, please hit that like button before you log off. That does help us in the algorithm. Please subscribe if you've not done so. You can check out my merchandise in our spread shop link below. Check out the description in our link below. And let's see here. We just got a... Okay, I think we're good. We just got a text into our text line. I think it's from someone regarding the men's team, so we'll hold off on that for now. Protect your information and help the show as well by signing up for a free trial of Aura. Go to aura.com/Hawkeyes. That's aura.com/Hawkeyes. Follow me on Twitter @FromTheHawkeye. Also @FromTheHawkeye on Instagram, and then From the Hawkeye of the Storm on Facebook. You can shop Amazon with us. I know people do a lot of Amazon shopping these days. Use our link in the description below to make your everyday purchases through Amazon and support the show here From the Hawkeye of the Storm. I'll be back with you tomorrow. More football coverage and more basketball coverage. But we've got a little while until the next women's game. That's coming up on the 30th. The Hawks will play Minnesota. The Iowa men will play Northern Illinois on the 29th. That game is on BTN+. The women's game is on BTN. We'll have post-game coverage for both. It's been fun, folks. Busy a couple of days. Thank you for being here, and for our Iowa Smokehouse callers. Again, Brad Van Meter and his team down at State Farm, RTI Threads. Thank you to everybody for making this show possible. Have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.